This conference will now be recorded.
I'd be happy to leave the meeting.
All right, we'll just need a motion in a second. You'll make a motion, do you? All right. Do we have a second? All right. All in favor? All right. Great. We'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, so the meeting is called to order at 9:33.
We tried to get her to speaker here. Make it easier to hear.
I'll try to talk a little louder. Are there any public comments? This is an opportunity for public comments. Online? Anyone online? No? Okay, seeing no public comments. Next item is an action item, and that's approval of the meeting minutes from October 3rd, 2024. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those minutes? And if so, I'd entertain a motion. We have a motion. Do I hear a second? I have a second. Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes from October 3rd? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Hearing none, minutes are approved. The next item of business is regarding approval of Scott Edmonson as a new board member. Hi, Scott.
How are you?
Well,
Scott, if you want to introduce yourself? If you want to introduce yourself to the board.
Scott Edmonson, I'm city manager for the city of San Saba. Commissioners Court agreed to let me serve on it. I think did we appoint Regina and then
Yeah, I think she left.
she's no longer with the chamber.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, so she's kind of gone off on her own.
so you hear a motion to?
I make a motion to accept Scott Edmonds as the new board member.
Motion, do I hear a second? Second. We have a second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Motion carried. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. And I'm moving right along. Nominations and approval for new board officers.
All right, so as I mentioned earlier, we currently no longer have a chair or vice chair. So we need somebody. We have Dr. Teddy Clevenger, who said he'd be 5 to 10 minutes late. He was interested in being the board chair. Is that still true, Dean? Okay. So after we vote for the chair, you can vote for the vice chair. So I guess, is anybody else interested in being chair or fine with Dr. Clevenger? Okay. I guess we'll just need to entertain a motion for Dr. Clevenger.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Motion carries. Until he gets here, I'll just continue to preside.
Yeah.
Okay.
He'll be here in a little bit.
So then vice chair,
Vice chair.
we have anybody, and Ginger can't do it since she's already board chair. So anybody who has not served before as an officer.
I'd be willing.
Yep.
It's a lot of work. We'll entertain the motion then.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye. Any opposed, same sign? Motion carried. Welcome aboard. Okay, that's good. Next order of business is approval of proposed amendments to the DDC bylaws.
All right. So this is our final draft of all the changes that we have to the bylaws. There are no more that we'll be adding, thankfully, this time. So we have a list here for every article, some of the proposed changes. Some of it's moving stuff around, others are being removed entirely. Some clarifications for stuff like membership. We're putting a 25-member limit. We're clarifying that counties are now able to appoint one member, which means that somebody wouldn't need to be approved by a vote. The county can simply submit somebody they'd like to add to the board. And then the executive committee will also be able to add 2 people. We put board member terms as 3 years in line with our EDA planning grant. So that just means after 3 years, board member will just need to submit another letter of support from the elected official, and they can just renew indefinitely. We added a section about proxy voting and just clarifies, you have to send something in writing that nominates a proxy to take your place. You added some CFR references in some areas. Changed the quorum requirements to 50% plus 1 and specify that you have to have your camera on to count towards quorum. And that if you're going to be absent from a meeting, if you let staff or let the chair know ahead of time, it won't count against your 3 strikes for absences. When you miss 3 in a row, you're removed from the board. So just as long as you let somebody know ahead of time, it's fine. And then we clarified really that there's a majority vote requirement for approving any changes to bylaws. And then, removed some other redundant stuff like the subcommittee section, which was covered in Article 3. And those are all the changes. And you should have, I think, sent along with the packet, printed out over here as a copy of the track changes for everything. And then in the packet itself, we have the full, clean version of the bylaws. So we'll just need a motion to approve, or if there's any suggestion for any changes or anything that you don't think should be changed.
Sir, I just have a quick question, Dominique. Is there a way, instead of them notifying every time if they need a proxy, to just designate a proxy, kind of like we do for some of our other boards, submit a form?
Yeah, it wouldn't need to be every time. So it's just saying, they clarify in writing once, they say, I would like this person.
So we can get something on file and.
Yeah. It's just one time, and then for, perpetuity, that person will be the proxy.
Any comments or concerns on the amendments to the bylaws? Everybody comfortable with the changes?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are a very verbal group today. Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval regarding the 2025 Leadership Central Texas program.
All right, so we have a list of some proposed changes. Nothing here is major. It's just stuff like cleaning up the actual application form. So like in the purpose section, we clarified that we really want to focus on local leaders and transforming them into regional leaders. And objectives, we removed the phrase organizations, topics, and dates subject to change. Because by the time we set this out, the topics are already set, the dates never change. Really maybe the speakers change, but we don't send out the agenda to the participants until we have the speakers set anyway. So it's just kind of, didn't need to be in there. Topics, we actually added in the topics in the application form. Previously, they just had the dates and kind of a general one sentence thing over what the class covers. Now we actually have day 1 covers this, day 2 this, day 3 this. And then like contact information, instead of it saying business, we change it to employer information. So this is employer phone number or employer contact. Changing the word from firm to employer, whatever it says that you work for. Extended the size of some text box so they have more room to put in answers for describing their biggest accomplishment to date or previous leadership experience. And right now, everything else, like the tuition fee, we're still keeping it $75. That's updated the deadline, which will be March 28th, 2025. And then the selection, which is our next board meeting, April 3rd, updated all of those dates. So, it's open for the board. Any changes, additional changes you'd like to see, or maybe this is we're ready to approve.
Is everyone familiar with the Leadership Central Texas program?
familiar with Economic Development Day or presentation or whatever.
As being a presenter.
Yeah, I always enjoy being part of the team. Is there, do we have representation from all of our counties in this program, or is it just kind of whoever signs up?
Yeah, and as far as participants,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is there a concerted effort to try to get?
yeah, and as far as marketing there is, but we haven't been able to get it to where we have kind of an even representation across all 7 counties. I mean, it's always heavily focused on Bell, even though we, put out advertisements or public notices, in the newspapers, way out in Mills County, Passes County, Hamilton. It just always ends up getting a lot more response from Bell County.
So certainly that's largely to proximity and
Yeah.
if there's travel with some of our further
Yeah.
field counties. But it's really incumbent upon those of us on this board to do some outreach in our communities and try to assist in getting the message out about this program. My observation of graduates is that they all are very appreciative of what they've learned in the program and find it beneficial. Whether some in the past have gone on to regional leadership roles is questionable, but I find it valuable. So I would encourage those of us around the table to do some outreach in our communities.
Yeah, especially if you're outside of Bell County. Let them know that they could take 3 days, learn about everything that the region has as far as leadership opportunities, planning, economic development, local government, emergency management, all that type of stuff.
Is there maybe an opportunity for like a scholarship or?
I mean, to cover their costs
A
for,
free ticket, yeah, like if you're coming.
Yeah.
That might be, Ginger comment about just trying to get here, there was some cost involved, so maybe if there was like a tuition waiver or something to help encourage some information.
In my opinion, the tuition is
Yeah, it's not much, I was just trying to think of a way to encourage, because I think it's not only to the health of the region, but I think also to the health of this organization, it's good to have that representation scattered broadly. And I only say that because I fight that a lot, obviously, with workforce in Bell County, such an 800-pound gorilla. I spend a lot of time trying to help Hamilton and Coryell understand they're part of the family, even Milam folks, and they're not quite as far away as when you start talking about the San Sabas and the Evans and all that. So I just brainstorming and not a big deal, but just trying to figure out a way to get them into the fold. So at least there's a good understanding that the Council of Governments is their Council of Governments and that it is a region we're trying to work in regards to that. So may not be a thing, but
I think that's definitely something we can look at. I mean, I'm trying to think in my head how that'd be structured, because I don't think it could be like a $75 for Bell County applicants, $0 for everyone else.
so for Bell County, it could be 200.
Yeah, I don't know.
maybe something to think about.
Yeah. I don't know, and it may just not be worthy, but I just know even working with our schools, Bell County certainly, and y'all know the demographic numbers is like as good as I do. I mean, that is where, especially those 3 counties, the metro area, there's a lot going on, but I'm constantly trying to make sure we're connected outside of that also.
Yeah, the only other thing I could think of is moving the location from here, doing something like we do for our transportation summit, where it's like held in Lampasas or Copper's Cove or something. So, I mean, that's a possibility as well.
Yeah,
Then that brings up, we have to expend funds to reserve the place for the day. It adds on more cost for us, but it's something to think about. I think the incentive was probably.
well, and it might be if it were a public facility, city or county might be willing to allow the space to be used. But that could be a simple solution too, maybe. I know kind of our geographic center is more west than here.
Or possibly, like when we do our Facebook ads, typically we, boost a post for all 7 counties. I mean, we could potentially do it just for 6 counties, just the rural ones. And then, Bell County, we already get the word out by sending it, the EDCs and chambers and everybody. They'll probably get enough of a response even without Facebook advertising, and maybe just target that towards the other counties.
Just a thought.
Do we want to let the doctor know what's transpired before he arrived?
Yeah.
Y'all already on 7, y'all just quit.
Congratulations, you're the new
I was like,
one.
y'all are still on like 3 maybe or 4.
So we did vote for you, as you let us know that you were interested in being the board chair, and he voted and approved you. So you are now the board chair, and Keela is the vice chair.
Okay. Well, thank y'all for thinking highly of me, and thank you for the nomination, and I'll be honored to serve in that capacity. The District Development Board of Texas. Thank y'all very much.
So we're on Leadership Central Texas, kind of went through some of it's small changes, nothing big, but just, updating the language, really. So we're just seeing if we're ready to do a motion to approve. We talked a little bit about how we want to get more rural participants too, but that's not part of the action item, but just discussion for us to kind of keep in mind how we want to get more people from our, like, Mills County, Hamilton, Lampasas, and so on.
Okay, do we have any further discussion about this item? Does anybody have anything they wanted to ask or any other questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right. We have an approval of the rural internship program for 2025. Thank you very much. Moving on to number 9, discussion and action regarding approval of Discover Central Texas Marketing.
Oh, you skipped one. It's a rural internship.
Oh, discussion and action regarding approval of 25 rural internship programs. And I'll hand that off to Dominic.
Yeah, so again, similar to leadership, we just made a few small changes to the program. For those who don't already know, this is our annual program where we provide 1,000, we increased it from before. I think last time around it was 500, and then we had increased it to 1,000 for 2024. $1,000 awards to cities, EDCs, chambers, nonprofits, anybody like that doing work that helps with economic development. And they have a junior, senior in high school who works on a project that could be anything from, creating events, marketing stuff. We had somebody help with a smart museum, help develop that out in Nolanville. So any type of project like that, they get $1,000, they get paid for 60 to 100 hours of work. So the hourly wage kind of changes based on that. This year, we're proposing to change it to $4,000 since we had 4 applicants last year who were awarded. And the big change from last year was that the EDA, as we discussed, is no longer allowing this as eligible cost. So the COG itself ended up funding the 4 awardees we had. And this year, we're kind of looking into alternative ways of funding the interns. And one of the ways we discussed was kind of having our board members go back and talk to local businesses they have in their area or in their region and kind of garner interest in donating $1,000 or $2,000, small amounts to fund one of these interns. And maybe, we get 3 or 4 businesses, or if there happens to be a bigger one, like, I don't know, an HEB or, somebody in the industrial way, or, Temple, they just want to donate $5,000 and benefit interns from all over the 7 counties, whoever those applicants may be. We do it that way. So are there any thoughts on that? Any hesitation or maybe any alternate ways we should look into obtaining funding?
So we did internally discuss this quite a bit. We talked about the DDCT possibly putting something out, a solicitation to banks, businesses. But at the end of the day, your businesses, your communities, they're going to get a letter from DDCT and say, what is this organization for and why are they coming to me hat in hand? I think if we can get the board's support, you know your businesses, you can speak about the program, the benefit of the program, and see if there are possibly some businesses that may be interested in donating to DDCT for this effort. That's probably the best way. I mean, we're not opposed to sending out a letter from DDCT, but like I said, there are probably very few organizations that know that this organization is here. That's something we probably need to focus on in the future too. But for this program, the COG did fund it last year because we had the money available. This year, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that from our admin side. So, I mean, we're open to any ideas, recommendations, suggestions. I don't know if maybe, somebody has a relationship with Brookshire Brothers, in Walmart. I don't know if Workforce does any.
So I do have an idea.
Right. I'm open.
So we have been awarded from the Texas Education Agency a grant to really accentuate and drive home work-based learning for students. That looks like everything from like career days to actual on-site doing work. The little catch to it is we had to do an asset gap analysis type of deal, and it has to be one of our high demand occupations for the 7 counties. So our 3 high demand that we had to land on are healthcare, software development, and education. Those are the 3 areas that are going to be experiencing the most job growth in the next 10 years, what we had to report to TEA. So one of the things that we are doing that we're trying to get kicked off now is we have 3 school districts that have committed, and we've recruited 3 employers. And so for the education pathway, we have Coppers Cove ISD, Temple ISD, and Belton ISD that are working with 3 early learning centers. They're going to have 3 students each work in these early learning centers to start working on their education pathway, kind of get the gist of, classroom management, lesson planning, what it's like to wrangle kids. But like all good TEA grants, that's going to end in February, and we still would like to try to do some kind of work-based learning with software development and healthcare. Now, there's a chance they could reissue more money, but it would be nice if we didn't have to rely on that, because basically what we're doing is we've got an MOU set up with the businesses and the school district, and it's really just a $500 stipend for 12 weeks, 3 hours a week, 12 weeks of work. It counts to the students' credit in their career and technical education classes. They get credit for this work. And so we've been looking for a way to go forward with that quote unquote internship work-based learning program at $500 a pop per student. What we were trying to do is do 10 students for each high demand pathway. So ultimately it would be 30 students. What that looks like in the future, I do not know. I know we're about to start the second 2 years of the TEA grant. But again, funding's always the deal, but that might be a good partnership where we have a relationship with the employers already and the school districts, and we could broaden that scope, or maybe certainly build that connection. And at $500 per student, that's not overwhelming. And the way we came up with that is we got with our educators on our pathway council, and we said, what works best? And it's like, well, kind of 3 hours a week for 12, that wasn't a magic number. We kind of got that number from them. So there's just something out there that we maybe could sit down and get a little more detailed work toward, but it's kind of a system that we've started. Hopefully October 1st, we're trying to kick off the education pathway with the early learning centers. That's what we're working towards. So the schools are getting they take care of the W-2s and the students, just the paperwork that we have to have. And then technically the student is not working for the business. They're kind of on school time, and it's kind of a learning laboratory. And so we're hoping to really launch that and maybe grow that. But could be an area that we could do all the legwork for it. And y'all can just shell out $500 to future teachers or future software developers or whatever.
So Charlie, are you saying that there would be students who are at these centers that you partnered with, early learning centers, and that part of their coursework would be like an
It is part of
assignment,
their coursework.
like an assignment on Discover Central Texas and maybe researching Central Texas in ways to help advertise the positive things that are happening in Central Texas?
Yeah, that's the only catch to it, is it has to be in line with their pathway.
Must be one of the software development, the education, or healthcare.
And so I'm looking at, our targets for this are local government, chambers, economic development, and tourism. And with the high demand occupations, maybe there's healthcare in a county or city, I don't know. Ours doesn't have anything related to that. Or software activities that.
Yeah, that's what I said. I threw it out there for these particular ones. It may not be a fit, but that may be something. I mean, obviously, tourism director is never going to be a high demand job in our area. Something like that. Marketing, yeah, that could be a business development type of deal. Marketing, business and finance. Those are all kind of in the top 25 of our jobs. We just haven't, in connection with our grant, it was like identify the top 3. So that's why we went there. But I'm just throwing that out there so you have the big picture, and it might be something can come from that. But certainly probably capable of making some kind of connections there, just because of our relationship with the districts.
Yeah, I think definitely for software development and for healthcare, those 2 areas are really intertwined with economic development. It'd be great to be able to figure out a way to have this program fund students who are actually doing stuff like that, like some kind of junior software development thing, and they come up with a little app or something, or, I don't know, just like doing some work on the Discover Central Texas site, somehow making some changes, or anything like that. That benefits just the community.
Well, and to Ginger's point, there could be certainly some of our cities, counties, chambers that could use some IT
Yeah.
support. A student could go in and work with the IT team, whether that's, a county department or, city, something in that form. So, like I said, maybe a separate, another meeting and kind of cobble together what we think really works and kind of put something down in writing so we kind of have a game plan and like, this is what we can do going forward, and just understand we might have to be kind of specific about what occupations or careers we want to pursue and which ones don't really relate to what we're trying to do. But I think my point being, since the COG would be funding that, we don't necessarily have to follow TEA's rules to get funding from their deal. It's just since we already have the infrastructure built and the partnership with the school districts, we can decide on our own. We want to do these occupations, and then that way I can approach the schools just like I would with anything else and say, here's what we're thinking about doing. Do you have 3 students or 4 students or whatever? And we'll connect with an employer to get them placed, whether that's a city or county or any other kind of entity that we've listed. And so it may be marketing students, students that are interested in marketing or whatever. But that might be a way of building in a development plan to keep that program not only working well, but certainly having an impact.
I think it's worth having a meeting. What businesses do you guys have the MOU with already?
Well, right now it's just early learning centers.
Okay.
So there's one in Copperscut, and so what we do is wherever the students are at, and obviously that gets tricky if we're a Bartlett or whatever, but we try to identify businesses that the students can get to, because obviously all the students in this program, they have to be able to drive. So that's just one of those things, but we try to, we have our early learning center in Coppers Cove that they're doing Coppers Cove ISD. We have one down the street from Temple High School that's doing that same thing in Belton. The one in Belton's literally like across the street from the high school. So part of that is the work I do in identifying what are the potentials, and many times just because of our relationship, the school districts will say, well, we've been working with Don Ringler Chevrolet. Some of our students went and toured it that are in automotive. Well, then that's easy for me to go to Donnie and say, hey, would you allow 3 students to come over here? And usually because there's already a familiarity there, the Chevrolet dealer will be like, well, yeah, they could come over here 3 hours a week and shadow our mechanics or whatever. So I bet we could, and we probably would be, I found typically with our government entities and our chambers, they're a little more open to that than even sometimes the private employers are. So, and I know City of Harker Heights, they were just, we had a lot of cities that are career day, but Harker Heights, they've already emailed me back, and they had like 5 departments of the city there, and they were just like, anything we can do to help, please contact us. We love being involved with it. So I think a lot of our cities would do that, and that's also a nice solution. For example, if you talk about an EVAN or someone like that may not have a large employer base, the city's an easy place to place those students and have them doing some work. So good work-based learning opportunities. I would think maybe they're a group get all huddled up and just say, what does this look like? And let's talk about how we can do it and start identifying that, because I'm certainly looking for ways to implement work-based learning more. That is kind of and Teddy Mott can vouch for this because he's in higher level meetings than I am, but that's kind of becoming the buzzword at the state level, is work-based learning. That's what they're pushing all the time. Every TEA meeting I go to, it's like, what are you doing work-based learning? So I think it could be a good thing.
The only thing right now is for the program, since it's rural, we specify it has to be 20,000 or less for the target population for the city, wherever the intern is. Right now you guys are only in Belton and Coppers Cove, and then.
No, that's just where I have it set up. Now, I have an MOU with EVAN ISD and with Goldway ISD. So all right. Westphalia, Rosebud Lot, those are all ISDs that we work on. So we're constantly trying to connect with more school districts. So we have options as far as what that looks like. Like Holland is somewhere where we're working. So I think the population deal.
Okay,
we could work around that.
All right. And then I guess for now, just we'll still. I guess, do you think we should still ask for them to solicit from?
Well, what Charlie was talking about, I see that as a way to make the connections to get people to participate in the program. But the biggest concern is the funding of the 4 students.
Yeah.
Because we don't have it in our coffers here. We were lucky to have it last year when EDA said, not anymore.
Yeah.
Yank. But in order to keep moving the program forward, we need some type of buy-in from community partners. And it's just, I think, conversation needs to be, what's a good way to get that? Is a letter from DDCT a good way to get that? Or as you all are members of the board, knowing the community, is that a better way to approach it? We're open to any suggestions, recommendations. We'll run with whatever the board recommends.
Well, so the letter is an ask for funding.
Yes.
It would literally be hey, we're the DDCT, we run this program, we send it out to, I think we originally identified some banks to send it to, but that letter is liable to end up on somebody's desk and be like, well, I don't even know who this is. We as the DDCT, staff don't have that relationship. I mean, it's something we need to work getting more involved with, but we just don't have that level.
Yeah.
So right now we have budgeted 3,000, but we're looking at increasing it to 4,000 and allowing more participants. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, and that's because last year we had our highest amount of awardees, which was 4. Previously it used to be 2 and sometimes 3. So we're just looking for that, depending on how much funding we are able to get from donors, that we could potentially increase that, and that in turn may solicit more applications. Because whenever we put the application out there and market it, used to say, we're only accepting 2, or we're only accepting 3. So that in itself kind of pushes people off from applying, because, you're opening up to 7 counties and only awarding 2. They may not think it's worth it to apply, but, if you have more, say maybe it's 5,000, and we're going to get $5,000 donated, and then you open it up to that, and, could encourage more organizations to apply and be part of it. But for now, I was just thinking, increasing it to 4,000, just because we had 4 participants last year.
Hey, Dominique.
Yep.
Since funding is uncertain, maybe we shouldn't put a dollar amount in the application, because it implies that we have money available and we don't know if we will. We word it so that, like, if funding is available, then we'll fund however many applicants we can, but don't want to give false promises to anyone who's applying.
Okay.
Well, and that's why I suggested we may need to have a little huddle, because if we use an approach like I'm thinking about, we don't need applications. We're going to go recruit the employers, and the schools are going to determine what students are best suited to do that in those areas. We would need individuals.
But in this case, the focus of the program has been to provide interns to local government chambers and economic development tourism. So are those businesses you would be recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, whatever the guidelines are, then I would go and contact, whether that was a chamber or county entity or whatever, we would target those rather than just put out a.
What if we not promise, but what if we did promise 2 or 3, and we could still open it up to all the other counties? Does that make sense? What if they were able to get a couple from their source, and then we opened it up to everybody else? If we were able to get more money, in a perfect world, we could do 4 or 5 and open it up, and then allow them to receive 1 or 2 of those. Does that make sense? And that way.
Even for workforce solutions.
Mm-hmm. And that way we're keeping it open to, because I do see that if we only make it for workforce solutions, then there's a smaller, then we're guaranteed, but it's also a smaller pipeline versus.
It's actually a
opening it
larger
up.
pipeline.
Well, you're not,
I will get more than they get.
But are we opening that to all 6 counties, or is it just?
We serve the same 7 counties they get.
Okay, so the students would be coming from this area, but be servicing all the counties.
Well, the students would come from wherever we enlisted the entity that was going to host the intern or the
Okay.
work-based learner.
Okay, so it would just come from Delta ISD to ISD?
No, we would try to find students from their ISD to make that, so we don't have someone driving from San Saba to Cameron every day trying to do an internship. We would try to pull students from a Rockdale or a Cameron for that
Okay.
area.
Okay, but so basically it would grow your program from the 3 schools to a broader spectrum. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I only have 3 schools because I only had grant money to do 10 students per career. That's the only thing. I mean, technically, and I realize Bartlett's not there yet, but you and I haven't sat down and talked, but we have MOUs with 17 school districts. So we're doing career work in school districts all over the 7 counties. And Teddy, just for frame of reference, Council of Governments and Workforce Development, we're the same but different. Well, I mean, we serve the same area. They are basically our HR department. We serve the same 7 counties and we overlap a lot. So there wouldn't be a deal of, well, we're running off and doing our thing and we're gonna leave some folks out. We would be more strategic. As a matter of fact, we probably would purposely make sure every one of the 7 counties had some type of program going. That would be my goal.
So it would be open to all counties, so.
Open to all counties, open to all entities in those counties. The trick is just the funding.
So I think, do we not take action on the internship program and just kind of have another workshop, if you will, to workshop through these details to see what needs to change, how
I think that wouldn't hurt, just so we could have some time to better kind of put together, because there's nothing that has to change about it, really. I'm just saying probably the only change is you have an individual out there beating the bushes, connecting the dots with students and entities.
I mean, and typically we get the same type of organizations or students that apply, or one will go.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
say the
historically,
mediator every year.
Yeah,
Or-
no, not just, yeah, we've had chambers, EDCs, I mean, like Nolanville with the Smart Museum I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and we still could make sure and reach out to our chambers and EDCs. There's a lot of those folks that are part of our Pathways Council that meets every month, so they're in the room. But we could still make all those connections, but I think we could get some valid results if we were kind of doing some hand holding and we were like, school district, we've got someone for you. Do you have students you want to send here? It's just a matter of funding that. And I think we still could even come out ahead on everything, because it would be easy to connect it to their career pathways at their school. So they're getting school credit for the work they're doing, not just getting a stipend or something. They could literally be getting that credit in their classes.
So would these be $500 scholarships instead of 1,000? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I think that's up to whatever. I mean, I think we're just showing what had been done in the past. Mine's just 500 currently, because that's what I was able to fit into the grant budget that the TDA gave. But I was trying to do it for 30 students across 3 different career pathways, so had to kind of work with what you had, so.
I think, kind of huddling up on this and with what you're offering, is a good idea. I also think that at the same time, those of us who think we may have businesses in our communities who would contribute to this kind of a program, if I could take something from DDCT to them and say, here's the program, I think of 1 or 2 that I'd be willing to go to and see if they could contribute some money. And the other thing I would say is, I wouldn't expend all the funds that might be contributed in 1 year. I think capping it at 4, it is a good idea, and then let's bank the money for the program in the future. Because I don't like asking my businesses for money.
Yeah.
I have to do it more than I like to.
Well, usually there's a long line.
There is a long line and chewing up sometimes, yeah. So that would be kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent suggestion. And I also think, the material we armed folks with to go and approach their folks for contributions, we could include how this is an impact on the students' career pathways, how we're actually preparing them for future workforce. This isn't just, a little project we thought. This is contributing to their education.
Well, I even wonder, since this is involving students in ISDs, that they're going to be doing like a work type program,
Yep.
work-based learning, and it's a part of their, it goes beyond their school day. They're doing this outside school hours, or they're doing this kind of half and half?
Typically, it's a half day of 1 day of class during the week.
Okay, so it's during school day, during school hours. I just wonder if there's a way the school districts could help supplement the budget. if their kids are gonna be involved. And having that be a part of the MOU with the school district is, if your, kid is awarded, they're gonna have these opportunities. But the school district promises to contribute $500 or $1,000 per student if they're selected.
Could be a possibility. We haven't had a lot of traction in that area, but you know better than anyone at the table, Teddy. School districts are
I
all.
mean, I'd be willing to do it. I mean, 'cause that's a small price to pay for an experience that a kid's gonna go get. It's also gonna help your community.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd be willing to sit down with some superintendents, with you or with us, and maybe invite some superintendents from these regions and just have this conversation again about this program and how can we work together, because right now funding's an issue, but it has so much potential.
Yeah, and you're right. At the end of the day, it's not a great deal of money in the big picture of things. But that's kind of all stuff we need to flush out. We have the relationships there. We've got the infrastructure built.
Because I would love for a couple of my kids
What's limiting us
to
is
go out
how far can we go
to do
because
something like that. I mean, I know every other school district would love that too,
I have a quick comment. Hi, Rebecca. Sorry, I was gonna keep my mouth shut this entire time and just listen. But talking about businesses and like being in line to get their money, if you incorporate some sort of social, so the business owner who's giving can actually meet the kid that they're sponsoring or whatever, that becomes much more enticing to the business owner. There's a little bit more buy-in. So if we look at having something like that, might make it easier.
Yeah, and it may be that it's just set up to where that business, if they contribute or however that works out, that's why I said there is some value to that local school district working with that business. And obviously there's a little more loyalty there. And businesses are very apt to support their local school.
And we get scholarship donations every year from different types of businesses.
Yep.
To help kids, go into the workforce and things like that. So I do think you're right though. I do think you're right. It's more personal.
We've done it several ways, but as soon as we started offering that, 30 minutes to a lunch, it can be very casual. It doesn't have to be a big anything. But man, when they're like, absolutely, can I sponsor too? And I want to meet them and I want to see their successes and I want to, it's just the buy-in from the business community switch somehow when we said, we're going to give you the opportunity to meet them.
That's my only concern with soliciting from the businesses. Initially, there's just like, we don't know who's gonna apply for the program this year, if we do it like we typically do, So if we're soliciting funding ahead of time, like say a business in Cameron, they say, well, I'd be interested, but suppose nobody in Cameron ends up applying. It's like, would a local business in Cameron still want to donate $500 or $1,000?
Yeah, but we're not having anyone apply.
Right, if we do it that way, just say if we did.
Going to the school district and talking with the teacher that teaches that area and saying, do you have 3 students that you're comfortable sending? Because that's exactly the way we did the education pathway. It was up to the school districts to kind of go through their students and find the 3 that they felt comfortable with representing the district in that employer's spot. The students didn't apply for it.
So if we could, I'll be honest with you, y'all could, we could come up with an MOU,
I've got
our
it.
school districts, and then you're soliciting ahead of time saying, if your students are selected, then, this is what it would cost to be a part of the program. The school district promises to pay $1,000 for this student to sponsor the kid. I think that you could get some school districts on board with that.
I think it just requires a little more time than we have this morning to sit down and kind of flush it out so we're all on the same page. And we could bring something back to the board and say, all right, here's kind of the game plan. Here's what it looks like. So we're all on the same page. But I do not have a problem utilizing our pathways network to build a program like that. The dots are kind of already connected. So
Charlie, is this something that you could get Dr. Novotny to put on the agenda for our next Bell County superintendent?
I think that's.
If you want to come to our Region 13 cluster meeting, the next one, it's a little further out, but
well, Region 13, I'll get my hand slapped if I start putting my foot over there.
I got you. But it would get you in a bunch of counties that are south
Yeah, I just don't serve outside of
Okay.
our 7 counties.
I got you.
I would also say if we have if a business pops up that is very interested in supporting the program, that we need to give them sponsorship recognition as a part of the program. So that's always helpful.
And we can draft information for everybody to share if you want to do that, great. If not, that's great too. We can draft something up to be shared.
So really the rural internship program would be kind of redesigned through this process.
Yeah.
And then put on the agenda at a later date for approval.
Did you say it was 25,000 population less?
20,000 or
20.
less.
Okay.
Yeah. So we want to just table this approval for this item then, since, I mean, how would that work?
Yeah, I mean, you could table it to the next meeting, and then within that quarter's timeframe, you could have a couple of workshops, you know, and then take action on it at the next meeting.
When is the deadline usually for something like this?
At the deadline for the applications?
The application people, if we were to do applications here.
Yeah, it's usually the end of March, early April. I think it's March 28th this year. It's the last Friday or something in March.
If we're gonna redesign, I'm not sure that that's a concern at this point.
Right, because we wouldn't be putting it out for application.
Would this line up with with the school year, would this scholarship line up with the school year, or would this be a one semester thing? Like, how do you see it going?
The way we've designed the one we're currently doing is it works for a semester.
So we've got some time then to develop this, and get it ready for the fall. Is that what the goal would be?
I think so. I think there's going to be some moving parts.
I think that's fair. I mean, that means we're not launching a program
Right.
for this summer, but with the funding considerations and the opportunity to pair it with the work-based learning, I think it's a good evolution of the program.
I do.
So I think it's worth to kind of table it for this year. We can work on additional funding from businesses or banks or whomever, and then
Yes, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
We kind of can decide, part of that meeting, I think we can decide what are 20,000, is that community or county?
Community.
Community. We can kind of get our target of, here's who fits that. And then we can look at what school districts are in those areas. That'll kind of give us a game plan right there, and we can begin to.
And we can discuss program areas, since it's not, because it's a TEA, but the 3 high demand industries is a requirement for the.
Yeah, we don't necessarily
we
have
can
to
do
do
any-
that. Since it's not their money, I don't have to check their box. I also think, and this is just a sidebar, but it's another good way to show how entities are sharing resources to be more effective with COG and workforce working together. I think that's always a good thing, trying to figure out how to utilize, get more with
And
less.
ISDs.
That's right.
ISDs.
That's right, and
More
ISDs.
service to their students, yeah, absolutely. I move to table.
So we have a motion to table till, for further discussion at a future board meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second here. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on, and thank you very much, Charlie. That's really good, and that's awesome. You know, just
We're having fun with it. It's going well.
looking forward to future discussions about that. All right, next agenda item, discussion and possible action item regarding approval of Discover Central Texas marketing expenditures.
All right. So Discover Central Texas, for those who don't know, early on in 2022, we started with the implementation of our CEDS, our Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. One of those strategies was to develop a regional tourism, marketing, branding effort. So we hired a contractor who helped build a website and created the sort of basic outline for a marketing plan for that. And so for the past few years, what we do is we work with 20 or so cities, 25, I think, who have access to the WordPress for the back end of the website. And each month we try and push them to market different events or attractions, sites, destinations, restaurants, businesses, stuff like that, usually under a certain theme. And we promote that out to anybody who's interested in visiting the region, or maybe is in the region, but visiting different parts, as we cover a wide area. So we did do a marketing campaign on Facebook early on, whenever we had the website first set up and the Facebook first set up and everything, so we could push it out to other areas in Texas and then nearby states, which is who we targeted the ads to. And so you can see the results here we have in your packet. So from December 13th of 2022 to May 18th of 2023, we spent a total of $1,562 on Facebook advertising. And the advertisement linked both to the Discover Central Texas website, as well as to, it had a little follow button for following the page. That brought us from 0 followers, 0 people liking and so on, to 4,274 followers. We had 79,000 or so people view the ad, 297,000 overall ad impressions. It's worth noting, I think this is the social media page that has the most follows out of anything related to the COG or DDCT. So it was a big success just over that short period. And that was about 506 unique accounts, which were following Discover Central Texas each day through the campaign. And comparatively since then, once that ad campaign ended, the combined reach of all of our Facebook posts over the past 28 days was about only 573, because only 20 accounts reached per day. So that kind of gives you an idea of the difference in reach whenever you are paying to boost an ad versus just making regular posts and everything. So our ask today, based off of what we have in the DDCT budget, which we are able to use DDCT funds for this purpose. Currently, our line item that we used last time, which is the other line item, is for other type of expenditures that can be related to economic development. We clarified we could use this line item with the EDA. That's about 3,788 left in that. So our options here today, if the board chooses or thinks it's useful to invest in doing another marketing campaign, it costs $10 a day. Well, actually, you could do a little less, I think, but last time we did $10 a day for an ad campaign, which would be just one advertisement. It links to the website, and then also has a button to follow the page on Facebook. To give you an idea, if you want to do that for 30 days, $300, 60 days, $600, 100 days, $1,000. And just to mention again, last time we spent $1,500 total. That was for December of 22 through May of 23. Another option is actually the Discover Central Texas website needs a lot of work. It wasn't designed very well from the people we had as contractors. We've moved it over to being hosted by Presley Design, who hosts our other websites. So there's a lot of work that could be done. It gave us a rough estimate about $4,000 to $5,000 for a website audit, and then based on that audit, they have an additional cost estimate for improvements, stuff like search engine optimization, fixing plugins and stuff, and updating it to where it looks better, shows up more in search results, and can overall just get more reach. That, as you can see, we may just move around some funding in the budget if we want to do that option, so we can afford the website audit. That's potentially something we can extend to our other websites, like the actual DDCT website, for improvements there. So it's open to the board for any discussion. If we'd like to take any actions, if you think it's useful to do a marketing campaign for Discover Central Texas, or you think it's useful to do a website audit, or if you'd like to keep that remaining 3,788 and focus it in another area that we can see if it's eligible use.
Dominic, what's the URL for Discover Central Texas?
It's discovercentraltexas.org.
And just so everybody knows, the COG just put on a new communications coordinator, marketing manager. So websites, all of the DDCT, the K-Tempo, the SIGCOG, all of our websites are being gone through right now. So I don't know that an actual website audit is something that would be super beneficial. I think we may have the ability to do that internally. I don't know what her play looks like. She just started full-time this week, so I can have that conversation. I'm happy to. We can always go to Presley and ask him to, pay him to do some mapping and kind of give us that guidance. But I anticipate over the coming year, there will be some major website revisions to all of the programs that the COG touches, including the DDCT site and the Discover Central Texas site.
So you're saying there's additional personnel that just added that could.
Yeah, she just came on board and she's going to be handling some of this. Like I said, I don't know her capacity, so if the board wanted to go with Presley Design for the audit, of course, staff would support that because I don't know, we may have the capacity to do it, but we may not be able to get an audit done internally by the next meeting because I don't know what her priorities are.
Yeah, if she just got on and, I'd like to see kind of what ideas that she has, and ways that can maybe improve the website, possibly. And then maybe see what comes of that maybe.
And maybe we could have her speak to that at the next board meeting. James?
I'd just like to add a couple of things. One, there are new rules that are coming into play this year for governments on ADA accessibility for websites. And in our conversations with Presley, they're just hosting, but they're not doing any kind of maintenance or anything like some of our other websites. And they said that they won't be able to do maintenance until there is some sort of redesign because they weren't the ones who originally created both websites. So fine, however it works out, but long term, looking ahead, I think there does need to be some work put into those websites, some money put into them so that we can get on a regular maintenance contract with Presley, which is like $100 a month, I think. So they are updating things regularly, making sure it's secure, stuff like that. And maybe we can do some prep work and then transfer it over. But just for context on both websites, there's a need for some technical work on them.
So my question is, do we have somebody who can train our new person on how to navigate the website and make changes? Because there is some capacity within that website to make some changes without having another company come in and just revamp it and create a whole new website. I think there's some capacity within it, but I think but you have to train your new person on how to.
And she knows how to do all of that on the back end of WordPress. But one thing that we're exploring that I just found out, we're looking to possibly go away from WordPress.
Don't.
And I don't. That's above me.
Yeah.
Decision.
Just having that fight right now.
But yeah, our staff are actually trained to be able to update websites. I think what James was referring to is, if you look at the DDCT website, not the Discover Central Texas site, the DDCT, it's in serious need of some updates.
If you look at the Discover Central Texas
Discover
website.
Texas is in way worse shape than DDC.
And that's a newer website.
It's newer, but when you scroll from the hero image down just a little, all you see is happening cities, image coming soon.
Yeah, everything,
There is no point in marketing this website as it stands right now. So I would say we take that off the table.
And so do we know what happened there? Is there a plugin that wasn't updated or something like that? Why is there not an image?
No, it's because that one, it's for the cities to upload images onto their page, and then it shows up there. So it changes what's under happening cities, I think, every time you refresh it. So some of them do have images in there, some of them don't. But
maybe that needs to be changed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because they designed it where there's a lot of.
Depending on the work schedule, may need to get our new communications person to just upload some pictures for the city. Go get a picture of wherever and put it on there. But that being said, to your point, I think you need the maintenance no matter what.
Yeah.
above whatever that is. I mean, you definitely need the maintenance schedule.
But in order to get the maintenance, we've got to do the updates, which are going to be costly.
Is there, what's the contact information for the new person that would be working on the site? Do they need to reach out to that person to get them the pictures to put on the website?
I just send it to us.
Okay, so if you guys-
Yeah, I don't want to
Okay.
overwhelm guys with
Is there any training that they need that we could help pay for?
Probably not, I wouldn't think, especially with WordPress. Probably could do some of that in-house. She's probably
And, you know,
got that knowledge.
ultimately, she's going to be overseeing not these websites, but, you know, SIGHOG has multiple sites that.
But that is the thing, I do realize that because our Workforce Solutions site is on WordPress. My Central Texas Pathway site wasn't built on that and just makes me want to spit. But anyway,
And because of the back end reasons.
because of the back end reasons, but what'll happen is when you've got, you're not a Microsoft contractor, are you? Okay. So some of our technology people, you know, they're inundated with Microsoft and they go into this whole spiel about how WordPress isn't very secure and it's not very safe, and that's what do we call it nowadays? Misinformation. That's not true. It's just as safe as anything else, but what they'll do is they'll get you to do something else, but then what happens is they're the only ones that can edit it because the coding is so complicated, whereas with WordPress, it's just like, I'm gonna upload that picture, I'm gonna do that. But that's beside the point, but I would just say, make sure and have the maintenance, because on our WordPress site, I know that from time to time, there's new plugins or there's new security updates, and just those of us sitting in our desks talking to school districts and teaching students career pathways, we're not checking all that regularly, and so that needs to be a constant. Someone needs to have that.
It'd be interesting to know too, where are they pulling all the information, or who is their contact to get them the information? Because Parker Heights, for example, is on here very limited. We could give you great resources quickly, or is there somebody on our end who could help do that?
And I think that's the thing, when we started this effort, there were people from the cities that were going to be providing all of this information, and we're going to be doing that type of work, but, you know.
And they've since moved on somewhere or something.
Well, yeah, so the whole process, they wanted it to be very interactive, where the cities were really the one updating all the events, photos and sites and stuff on their end. And we do, you know, I've reached out several times, I've replaced those people, so we do actually actively, you know, on paper, have 25 people who are assigned for each city who have volunteered or been voluntold to, you know, take care of the WordPress for their city, but you know, they don't have the time, and then I don't have the time on my end to go in and manage and track everything that they have, you know, each month and upload that myself. So it ends up just being blank like that and saying, you know, picture not available, or it's just nothing on their city page.
I would say whatever we need to do for maintenance with Heather, we do that. As far as like to change the point, I don't know that we need to be boosting or pushing anything out if we're not quite there yet.
Like, don't market the website.
Yeah, I mean, we can still market just the Facebook itself. I mean, it's that, you know, we post and make calendars, events going on. So share stuff from all.
James, you said that there's new rules coming out regarding websites, and Presley Design can get the website where it needs to be to meet those rules, is that?
Yeah, the audit would look at what is deficient, and then there would be okay, here's what you need to fix, here's how much it would cost. And that's all more like technical back-end stuff. It's not so much the content that is being shown. It's all behind, and I don't, like Ryan said, this, our new communication person may be able to help with some of that, but
Yeah, but
we
see,
might
like
need a
on our-
combination.
Like on our homepage, we don't have a reader, you don't have a reader assist, that's required.
Yeah.
So So, yeah, and he's right, the audit, she can make sure fonts are able to be enlarged or not and that kind of deal, but that's, the only thing about the audit is, to y'all's point, you're a new person. She certainly want to get her fingerprints on stuff. And kind of to Teddy's point, it may be she has some ideas or some things that it may turn into more than just an audit. It may turn into, we need to really take a look at this and move this around. So I don't know, maybe too early for Presley to audit until she gets her feet on the ground a little better and looks at things. I don't know, y'all would know that answer.
But what if we said, let's go with option 2, subject to the input from the new marketing person here and their direction?
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with that. I'll reach out to her today.
That way, this sounds to me like option 2 is where we really need to be taking action right now with the funding that's available. But need to make sure that those actions align with what you're.
Yeah, and you could just say, allocate not a cost not to exceed $5,000 for a website audit of which website? Both websites, one website?
Just Discover Central.
Well,
The Discover Central Texas.
both of them need help, so if the money's available for either,
You think
then
that should be for both?
both of them need, both
Does
of
the
them.
audit come with training for our person, or does the audit come with any kind of communication from the auditor to our person?
Well,
at all, or-
Typically, an audit doesn't,
It's just showing.
they're just going into the coding and looking and making sure.
And our person does the changes? So
Yeah,
I show you
it's
decisions.
probably set up to where COG makes the edits and the changes.
So our communications person would internally be doing the audit and trying to do the heat mapping and all of that, unless she's not able to, and then we would get Presley to do it, and they would send their results to us.
Okay.
And was the point that we couldn't set up a maintenance contract with Presley until an audit was done?
Because
Yeah,
Presley can
yes.
design it and it
Yeah.
won't touch it
Because-
unless they,
Yes.
they are compensated to fix it to their standards.
Right.
Yeah, that's the only reason I would say the audit's critical, because that maintenance contract is the most critical. We gotta make sure the security, at least security updates are done. And we don't open up Discover Texas and it's,
Yeah.
a picture none of us want to see. Someone decided to upload something, so.
So the agenda item is just action for Discover Central Texas. So the motion could not include the DDCT website. Or can-
I don't know. I would think.
How do we do this where we make this as easy for possible staff?
I think
To make
you can
decisions.
say, you can say both and we'll go with it, and if somebody pushes back, then
We can clean it up at a
you
meeting.
can say, you know what, it's your Brian's fault. So-
No, you say, well, call Teddy, he was the chair of the meeting. Teddy ain't scared.
Yeah,
Do we want to let our person have it first and see what they're capable of doing? And then in a worst case scenario, we can put the language such that we can have the audit done by Presley if in the event we can't take care of it. And so the audit can be done if we can't take care of it.
Yeah, I just, the one thing I would avoid doing in a motion is specifically stating Presley Design. And the reason I'm saying that is because there are other companies that may be able to do it, say Presley's covered up. And so I'm just thinking,
We can even say up to $4,000 to $5,000 because it could be that our internal people handle the audit.
yeah,
So
so
we can-
that's why I was saying up to $5,000 to cover the cost of an audit on this website and or this website.
So
By the way, thank you for shopping local.
Put that in motion for sure.
Heather's our people, she's not in Dallas or Austin or somewhere, she's our people.
Yeah, so right down the road.
Yeah, the motion would be for up to $4,000 to $5,000 for possible website audit, or for website audit. That would be simple. Up to
Up
up
to-
to $500,000 for website audit. And that way, our local person would have it first, and if not, then we could get Presley or whoever to do the audit. But the audit would be up to $5,000 in expense.
For both, I would make a motion for an audit to websites for expending up to $5,000 for both the Discover Central Texas website and the Development District of Central Texas.
Sound good?
I would second that motion.
You made the first motion?
Ginger made the
Oh, okay.
motion, and Charlie seconded it.
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Good work. Okay, item number 10, discussion item regarding the 22 through 26 Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy implementation.
All right, so just our usual set agenda item. This meeting, we're covering our last objective it is the last objective out of all of them, but we started off going through the 4 that are focused mainly on economic development. These bottom 3 in the plan focused on emergency management because of COVID and the ice storm, and that kind of affected how the plan was developed. So this one is educate and prepare residents and businesses to better sustain themselves during disasters. So you have strategies up there. We have a nice new format. So the red there is just a priority. If it's yellow, it's a medium priority. I think green is lowest priority. The first one being assisting businesses in developing continuity plans. Leverage the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Disaster Preparedness and Recovery Guide. So this recovery guide we actually found online, right on that website, and there's nothing else that really needed to be changed or added. I also put together a local emergency management toolkit, and I was going to develop a business one separately, but this one already had pretty much everything for preparing, responding, and then recovering, maintaining supply chains and stuff like that, maintaining business operations. And so that I would plan, I'm putting it up on the DDCT website along with various other toolkits that we're developing, which will be its own subsection of the site. And that will also be sent out on one of the newsletters and also directly to the chambers to distribute to their businesses, just so they have in case of a flood or fire, ice, or that sort of thing. So that was kind of how we approached that. Developing and disseminating educational materials to households regarding preparations they can make to sustain themselves without utilities or transportation. So this is one that we haven't completed. We've kind of been discussing internally how we may approach this, but really this and any of the strategies, it's open to this space is for the board to kind of provide ideas on how they think staff should approach implementing these or working with cities and local governments to do this, because many of these, really the local governments, the burden of implementing this would fall on them. It's like educational materials to households. I mean, as far as what staff could do, we could put together a flyer or maybe, a one-page document of a checklist for households and give that to local governments for them to distribute however they see fit on local media. Any ideas like that or suggestions for how we may approach that?
I like the idea of some checklists and distributing to local media, as well as on social media, to outreach to citizens, to your local governments. They can do some, but if it was a campaign of disaster preparedness that maybe was timing adjacent to weather or drought, those kinds of things, that might be, very specific. It could be a seasonal thing, potentially. It also gets the district out in the media.
You think we should distribute directly to media, the public and stuff, rather than sending it to the cities.
I don't think you
disseminate
should not send it to the cities, I just think you should
Yeah.
also.
it.
All of the above.
All of the above.
I think Ginger's comments are very much like, there should be like an official announcement or press release from the Council of Governments in conjunction with, we're alerting our communities, our city governments also, just all the above.
Yeah, here we are, it's, 104 degrees out, or we're approaching summer, and here are some things that you and your household might think about preparing for. And that little heat-related checklist, or the freeze-related checklist, or whatever the case might be.
Kind of begins to set this organization up as the go-to for some of those emergency announcements. We know that every community has their deal, but everyone starts recognizing, oh, that's something that the COG is on top of and that they do for the regions. Stay on top of that.
Just to get more than emergency checklist. So,
Yeah. This time. All right. Yeah, okay, we'll work to put together then, however that may be for. I think doing it by, disaster season and stuff and whatever's most likely to occur, preparing for that, do different ones for each scenario. That'd be good. And we do 1 page a day.
Yeah, make it just
Press
relevant
releases, that stuff.
seasonally or
Yeah.
whatever relevant for people.
Do y'all follow Texas Storm Chasers on Facebook?
No.
Y'all, because that guy, he's probably the best there is on following where tornadoes are going to pop up and following the actual tornadoes. He's probably the top guy in Texas for tornadoes. But look at that Facebook site, and Megan put a link to that Facebook website or Facebook site, because it literally, I actually had a tornado come to my house, and I was able to track it as it got like to the trees, because that guy was like, it's heading here and this is where it's at, and he's just looking at it and it's like red and blue and green, but he knows exactly where it's at. But it came to our house, but I never had anything like that happen. But he's the top guy on Facebook that follows that stuff, and he's up till he'll stay up all night long following storms for people, and all they got to do is just get on there, and he's live. And if he's not live, there's not a problem. But if he's live, there's a problem in Texas somewhere.
Or the tornado got in.
Yeah. So I just want to let y'all know about that Facebook page.
I think I'll check that out.
Yep.
Dean?
in reviewing the package and the pages that were associated with the disaster preparedness planning, the attachments, workshop, material, I thought it was excellent.
Oh, the emergency planning summit that we had?
Yeah,
Oh,
I thought it was excellent with regard to a first effort. One of our objectives in bringing emergency infrastructure equipment to the local communities, building resilience with the local communities, looking at all of the potential disaster-associated events that we could prepare for. Building resilience and survivability is very important, in my opinion. I think I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but this is primarily associated with natural disasters.
yes.
Of course, it's a world community, and we're dealing with some bad actors in the world that are causing issues with other allied countries, and involving sabotage, take the Baltics, undersea cables communications. We've had a massive wildfire in Los Angeles, and there's a lot to be learned in preparation for that. So, my feeling is that, things that, this should be an evolving, approach, as far as planning and getting the information down to the city governments and to the individual people as best we can that's the most relevant. Now, if you take a beneficial thing that happened in California was that the satellite system was available to affect the communications, and that's Mr. Musk's program. But they were out of communications totally. All of their cell phone service was gone. And so all the coverage that we saw was due to the fact that communications was there and that he provided it. So possibly some backup plans to obtain sat communications when we have lost possibly cell service in an event. And back in the 50s and 60s, we used to have a lot of civil defense training in this country. And it was involved in the schools. I remember doing civil defense training when we were in the early stages of the Cold War. And so, we now have potential situations where some of our infrastructure could be sabotaged. Our water systems could be sabotaged. EMT attack could take place, but it would depend on the world situation. If you follow the world situation, it kind of continues to ratchet up to where it's adversarial. And so, like I say, I'm not interested in getting too far into the weeds, but there are some things that we could add that are not natural disaster related. There might, like civil defense related, where hardened shelters are identified.
I think there's definitely something that we could include in a future version. I mean, there's stuff like mass shootings and things like that, like you said, aren't natural disasters, but definitely something that they need to have some sort of preparation and response for. And currently, like you said, if you go in your packet, I attached the local government emergency management toolkit that's put together. That one and the summit were kind of based off of our discussions from last meeting. That was implementations of those strategies. So the toolkit, it's 3 pages, I think. So the first page, planning and preparation. The second page is the actual response. Third page is recovery. So the first thing in these, whatever it's on the website, everything highlighted, those are links that they would click. It would be a PDF. But we have the hazard mitigation plans for each county. We talked about TM, our contacts that we have for Region 8. There's a few toolkits, like here's how to build private-public partnerships for managing disasters. Code Red, we talked about COG here in our public safety division. And then different way, draft like emergency operations plans for schools, for local governments, for houses of worship, how to develop and maintain a local emergency operations plan, and then some grant funding for resiliency, so USDA, FEMA stuff, CDBG. Then the response is like, here's how you communicate in a crisis, public safety crisis communication, make sure you declare a local state disaster, stay in contact with your TDM Region 8 coordinator, and then there's a few wildfire, tornado, drought, flood response guides. Then the recovery side is, here's the state of Texas local catastrophic debris management guide, and then here's how you collect everything. So you do your PSTAT or the ISTAT for the cataloging damage to infrastructure, both public and private, so you can qualify for the FEMA public assistance or the individual assistance grant. Then some recovery, loan and grant programs, And I think lastly is the FEMA National Disaster Recovery Framework. So all of that's going to be on the site, going to be distributed, through every available means to get that out, sent out not just to cities, but the newsletters and everything to the public too directly. But it's mostly for the local governments. But, definitely we can add something and research more into sort of, man-made crises and stuff like that. The summit we held on December 5th of last year, you see the agenda there. We had Jesse with our public safety side talk about everything that the college does. We went over hazard management plans, hazard mitigation plans from the consultant that's developing a few of our county mitigation plans. We had talk of our emergency communication coordination for local governments, one of our EMCs. Then how do you respond to the disaster from our assistant chief for Region 8 for TDM. Lastly, we had a success stories panel where we had some EMCs talk about kind of their experience over the years and managing and responding to different disasters. And to your point, some of them mentioned like early on in their career when there's the boobies shooting in the early 90s, the whole Waco incident in the mid 90s, and how that actually affected traffic and transportation in this region as well. We talked a little bit about that. But overall, it was a good success. We had a survey from there, and we're thinking of maybe holding that annually or doing it more like a tabletop exercise where we do like here's the flood, here's the fire, mass shooting or something like that. And we're with TDM and we go through how they respond to that. But for the next three for strategy, is conducting outreach and assistance to residents of mobile and manufactured homes or other vulnerable structures to encourage repairs and other measures to make them more resistant. So this one in the CEDS, it puts the main actor for implementing this as the local governments or counties. So I was interested if anybody knows in their cities or region if there's any outreach already done by the city to mobile homeowners, manufactured homeowners, to prepare them in case of like a tornado or a fire. Does anybody have an example of anything that you guys already do?
Do we have anything in Bartlett? I think we do. Mobile homes, preparedness. I think they have a siren in town.
Yeah, basically the one that Troy had is when I was on the council, I had them upgraded.
I don't know if the city sends out anything. Does the city send out anything other than?
When you say outreach,
To them, I mean, outreach, I think is just meeting with them and, assessing the property, seeing it. I mean, it sounds sometimes like something a code enforcement officer might do, but since it's in the plan, it's kind of more broad than that. So I'm not sure exactly. It's kind of, we could take that how we can use it. I don't know what the best way is for staff to interact with local governments and promote this outreach, or what our role in that would look like.
yeah, that may be just like a staffing issue. I mean, there's a lot of our area that's experiencing so much growth. They're all devoted to maintenance or development, and I know Judge Blackburn had an issue with the tornado siren. Because to Teddy's point, he sees on his phone what the weather is before the tornado sirens go off. So, it's kind of like one of those technologies that served the purpose at one time, but now it's just like, well, we knew that 10 minutes ago. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not aware of anything really.
Yeah.
And we were like Teddy, we went through a tornado recently where we live, and we just, as far as outreach and preparedness, all of our stuff came from this device. We didn't have anyone, kind of giving us heads up other than us taking care of it. Sorry, Ginger.
No, I was just looking at the agenda, I think, kind of to make sure that we didn't just lose our quorum.
Oh, wait, we approved the update. No, we still have 5, and we have 12 members now. Actually, well, we have no more action items anymore.
No, they're all discussion.
Yeah, and we do, I believe Brian O'Connor.
Brian left, so we have Larry Murphy, who's online right now.
He's not a member of the board.
I think we can still finish, but maybe let's keep, it's been an hour and a half, Dominique, so if you wanna go.
So do we have any further discussion regarding the updates, regarding comprehensive economic development strategy? Not. Then we'll move on to item 11, discussion item regarding updates on regional broadband initiatives.
All right. So the biggest thing here, everything else you can read through, you have nice thing for local government permitting to promote broadband. But SB 2238 at federal level, this is a Senate bill that could refund the Affordable Connectivity Program from the FCC. This is a subsidy program for low-income households to afford devices and then also just broadband service or just really any internet service. So if this passed, it puts $7 billion to that, and also create a national strategy to close the digital divide, to be a coordinated effort between different agencies of the federal government. You can move on.
Okay. All right, any further discussion on regional broadband initiatives? If not, we'll move on to item 12, discussion item regarding legislative updates impacting economic development.
All right, I'll just go over a few bills from the state legislature right now that you should have on your radar that affects economic development. HJR 35 would create a constitutional amendment to create a Grow Texas Fund, which would help support infrastructure in the state. HB 563 would create a small municipality revenue recovery grant program, financial assistance for economic development. HB 346 would eliminate all first-year licensing and registration fees for businesses. So if it's your first time setting up a business, you won't have to pay any licensing or registration fees. And it would also allocate funds for economic development to support businesses. HB 406 would require local governments to notify workforce development boards of the execution of certain local economic development agreements, and in general just promote greater cooperation with workforce development and local governments. And the EDA Reauthorization Act of 2024, it's happened at the end of last year, codifies the EDA's role in establishing workforce training partnerships, modernizes their ability to deliver broadband projects for economically distressed communities who are less than 10,000 people. It would eliminate match for them, which is huge for the EDA grant programs. Most of them, it's either 50% match. If you meet certain criteria, it could be a 20% match. This would eliminate entirely for those economically distressed communities. Even for other communities, it would lower the match. Then it would also create an Office of Disaster Recovery and Resiliency, and then establish regular meetings with districts like ourselves to coordinate with them for economic development efforts.
Which one was that one?
That's the EDA Reauthorization Act. It's the first time I think in 20 or 25 years the EDA is reauthorized. It would also broaden for their main grant program, the Public Works and Economic Adjustment Program. It would expand it. They have like a distressed communities thing, which gives you the 20% match and as its own special pot of money. They would expand that to include recovery from drought, specifically when the drought is affecting water for industrial uses.
And Dominic, these have all been enacted, or they're?
No, these are all the bills are currently in the legislature. The EDA, that one has been enacted.
The EDA.
Yes.
Any further discussion on legislative updates? If not, we'll move on to the staff update.
All right, the circuit rider, something we've talked about at length for some of our other strategies in the sense. We have started this. We've met with 2 cities, Hamilton and Hyco, and we have the tentative schedule in your packet as well. We're meeting with them, we're sitting down, we're discussing their needs, their big problem areas, and how the COG can help. We talk about the services we provide, how we can assist with grant applications and administration. And so, yeah, that's going along. We plan on meeting with all 32 of our cities, and hopefully establishing a lot more partnership and collaboration on different plans and projects. We are also planning on applying for the EDA Planning and Local Technical Assistance Grant, so we can have maybe some additional funds for initiatives like if we want to help develop a comprehensive plan for a small city or something similar to that, so we can maybe help a little bit more on the planning side. I've already talked about the summit. For the DDCT website, previously we talked about wanting to consolidate all of our industry, economic asset, demographic data on one site. So all of that has been moved and updated to the most recent data on the DDCT website. Now it's just one menu item. You go there and then you can look at various different things. Like there's a regional dashboard, and we have community profiles for all 32 cities. And oh yeah, for grant application administering, big success. We got the RAISE grant was awarded for Cameron. That was, I think, around $8.2 million. And that's to establish a quiet zone in the city, which will, and also do a complete streets project. So a lot of safety improvements around crossings, and a lot more accessibility. We'll get rid of the train horns that, they have 42 trains that go through there per day. So it's a big issue there. Submitted a grant for Rockdale for industrial park development, and working on administering several others. And lastly, in your packet, you have the economic overview for Q4 24. So usual unemployment rate, exports. Unemployment rate went a little down, thankfully, this quarter from 5.07% last quarter to 4.76. There you have your fastest growing occupations and demand skills. And that's it for the staff update.
Okay. Do we have any board of directors comments at this time? Okay. The next meeting date will be Thursday, April the 3rd at 9:30. And any questions about that? If not, I'll need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Dean seconds it. All in favor? All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Sorry I was late, guys.
No problem.
Thanks.